Welcome to the Seattle Sports Union. My name is Abraham DeWeese. With me today is Rob English. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. We are the best in local Seattle sports commentary. We are the Seattle Sports Union. Check us out on our website, seattlesportsunion.com. We have great tweets about all the games. Check that out at Seattle Sports U. And of course, please like us on Facebook. That's Seattle Sports Union. Well, today's NFL game of the day, well, at least the game of the day as far as Rob and I are concerned, is the Seattle Seahawks' utter humiliation of the New York Jets. Rob, can I say utter humiliation? Would that be a good phrase for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we handled them, pretty handily. I was really upset about that touchdown at the end, where he picked it up and just ran all by himself to the end zone. But yeah, I think we made a point.
There was that was a gimme, and that just was a bunch of players not focused in what was a blowout at the time. Obviously, the final score of 27-17 doesn't reflect how much we dominated. I was a little bit trepidatious about this game. I'd been shouting all week to anybody that would listen, don't play Russell Wilson. Don't play Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson proved me wrong today.
Yeah, Russell Wilson, he didn't just prove you wrong, he proved me wrong as well. I'm not a big fantasy football guy, but I decided that I wasn't going to start Russell Wilson in my fantasy league today because he's got two broken legs.
Yeah.
What kind of smart person could start a guy with two broken legs? And then he went out there and put up like 33 or so fantasy points. So
yeah, it was 309 total passing yards, and then what, 3 touchdowns?
Yeah. He played some really good football. It was kind of unfortunate, to see him, move in the pocket. He didn't look like the Russell Wilson we've grown to love so much. Even when he was scrambling away, I think I don't remember what defender it was that caught him from behind. He kind of just went down instead of trying to get away.
A fully healthy Wilson gets away from that.
Exactly. But he did what he always does, and that's play smart football, and that's why he's been able to avoid these types of injuries for as long as he has. You know what I mean? So it was good to see him get out there, even despite him being banged up to play as good as he did.
I'm excited about the prospect of him healing up here, and I'm also excited that even with the injuries, he has been able to lead this team and march the team down the field. He's really shown to the world, hasn't he, that he's an actual honest-to-gosh quarterback, not some sort of gimmicky run athlete guy. That I get upset at people that call him a system guy. He's just an athlete who plays a quarterback position, this, that, and the other thing. Didn't today prove that this guy is an actual quarterback? Not proof to you and me, because we've known that forever, but
Right. Yeah, no, even before today, I would say, the last quarter of the season last year, where he really just kind of took over. The running game wasn't doing what we're so used to it doing late in the season last year. And, between him and Doug Baldwin, they were blowing up the NFL. So I think absolutely, if people want to say that he's, a game manager and all that kind of stuff, and like you said, he's athletic. But Russell Wilson, if you look at the quarterbacks that are like, they're following that same type of quarterback, that, athletic running, mobile quarterback. Russell Wilson's really the only one who's had sustained success.
yeah.
Look at RG3. Look at Mike Vick. These
Where
guys.
are they? Yeah.
Where are they now? Right? Yeah, on the bench or on the couch. So Russell is every bit as good of a quarterback, a true quarterback, as any of these quarterbacks, and he has the ability to move around the pocket and stay mobile. And he doesn't just run to cross line of scrimmage and run. He'll run. He moves around and finds the open man downfield. He creates more time in behind the line of scrimmage.
Oh yeah.
So that's really why he's so great.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the running game while we're at it. Kristen Michael had 18 carries for, I believe, something to the effect of just under 60 yards.
Right.
Any concern here? I personally saw a guy who did well, on certain plays, but that tough Jets defensive line, burst through our offensive line, our average to slightly below average offensive line. And it concerns me that we didn't get more yards on the ground.
it was definitely something that I noticed, but I wasn't really worried. I mean, like you said, the Jets run defense is decent,
Yeah.
to say the least. I mean, in football, you can either run or you can pass, and it's a matter if you can't take away one, you got to do the other. I think really what we did is show how complete a team we actually are when we play the way we're supposed to, because they took away the run, but we were able to win the game with the pass. Russell Wilson, did all that he did. I think Michael ran well. He didn't get a lot of those big runs that he has been getting earlier this year. But I mean, the running game it was sufficient. I think it was sufficient. It did what it needed to do. It wasn't one of those big games that were going to make Sports Center or anything like that. But
Yeah.
but I mean, he did his job. So I wasn't at all worried about the running game today.
CJ Spiller came in presumably to take the role that CJ Procise is supposed to have, that back out of the backfield to catch swing passes and passes over the middle. I like this pickup, and when I saw him go over the middle for what looked like he kind of looped around and went up the middle. I like his natural feel for the passing game, even though that he's only been here for 2 days. Yeah, what are your thoughts on CJ Spiller? Did you like what you saw out of him, and would you keep him for the entire season?
Definitely. CJ Spiller looked, especially like you said, he's only been in the system for a couple of days. He went out there and he was workable. He got a touchdown, didn't he? He got a touchdown pass from Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So he was an immediate upgrade. I mean, he walked into the lineup first game and he scored a touchdown. He did his job. The ball was in his hands. He was CJ Spiller. I mean, CJ Spiller's always been great. When he was in Buffalo. He was. I mean, I was a little bit hesitant, a little bit apprehensive about it when I heard about the pickup, because I kind of was like, is he going to be like Fred Jackson was? Like, Fred Jackson used to be a beast, but when he was with us, you could tell he lost the step.
He's over the hill, yeah.
Yeah, so I was worried that Spiller would be the same, but I think Spiller his legs still look good.
Yeah, I like the pickup. I was a little bit worried about the baggage that he'd bring in here, but we've seen several players with baggage that come into the Seahawks, and Carroll's very good at dealing with it. And if there's a person that can't handle it, he has no qualms in getting rid of them. So, it'll be good to see what he can do. I personally, out of what I saw from him today, would like to see him as the number 2 running back, getting some carries out of the backfield as well. And heck, keep him for the rest of the season based off of what I saw off this one game.
Well, I don't know about the number 2 back. I mean, if it works, then so be it. I think I'm still gonna hang my hat on Rawls at starting spot and Michael after him.
Sure. I'm assuming Rawls is out of the picture for 4.
Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, yeah. I got you. Yeah, definitely. I was like, wait a minute, Abraham.
But who I'm specifically referring to is Alex Collins. I think CJ Spiller is much further along than Collins is, and he just seems to be more of a fit for this team.
Collins. I think Collins he's looked good at times, but he's new to the system. He hasn't really had an opportunity to do a whole lot. Would I like to see him do more? I would like to see him become I don't know about a focal point of the offense, but just become more workable in the offense. Yeah, absolutely. But football is it's a business, and if you're not the best guy for the job at any given time, sometimes you got to go. So yeah, it wouldn't be outside the box to see him maybe get removed for Spiller.
Sure, and that's what I was hinting at. I was curious what you thought about. I focused a lot of my attention on Jermaine Ifedi, the right guard, first-round draft pick out of Texas A&M. And I saw out of him what this offensive line has needed. I mean, we saw nastiness, we saw size, brutality, and against a stiff defensive line from the Jets, he was able to keep pace with them.
Yeah, and I don't think he got even one holding call today, did he?
No, he didn't get any holding calls.
He didn't get any holding calls. So, you're right. I like that his aggressiveness. He said his nastiness. That's great. And I like also that he doesn't seem to go overboard like our buddy Sweezy used to do.
Right.
He just, I mean, Sweezy was a beast on the line, but it was like he was roid raging sometimes, and he was, cost us 15 yards.
Yeah, Giacomini would do that too.
Giacomini as well. Yes, yeah, exactly. I think if Eddie looks really good. I like to see us have that same success on the left side, but I guess that's one thing at a time.
Yeah, on that left side with Sowell and with Glowinski, boy oh boy, they've been beat up, they've been kicked, they've been knocked down every freaking week. But these are the guys we have. There's no one else to replace them.
This is true, and for what it's worth, you got to give it to Cable. Tom Cable has been making lemonade, and not too bad lemonade out of lemons that we kind of have. I mean, I feel bad calling them lemons, but we've made great things happen with not the greatest offensive line.
Yeah.
All praises go to Russell Wilson. In that respect.
I think you're okay calling them lemons. I mean, specifically, Jamarcus Webb came in here out of shape and not ready to play, and we had to play him by default when Ifedi got injured, and he got blown up time after time after time. He was definitely a guy that we took a shot on, but I wish we hadn't tried to depend on he and Bradley Sowell. I really wish there was another guy. Maybe Russo Diambo's one of those guys, but I guess we're stuck with what we have, aren't I? I keep repeating that with this offensive line.
Yeah, I just wish we could get Walter Jones back in the uniform. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So let's keep moving out on the line. Let's go to Jimmy Graham. I sat there and just reveling, just gleefully that, my God, Bevel has actually figured out how to use this guy. It started last week, and it's been going on this week. His knee is a little bit banged up, but my God, if it holds up, we have the weapon that we've been looking for the last, I don't know how many years.
Absolutely. That was the whole thing, is that when we had a whole off season, to really work with Graham and get him and Russell on the same page, the possibilities were endless, right? So I think that we might be seeing that, actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
Graham, I mean, what do you have? 6 catches for over 100 yards today?
113 yards. Back-to-back 100-yard weeks by
right.
Jimmy Graham. No Seahawks tight end has ever done that before.
See, I'm telling you, that's a big deal. The only thing that I haven't quite seen yet, and maybe I am off on this observation, but I don't know that I see Jimmy Graham use the same way that he used to be. Him and Drew Brees used to work. Like,
how did they used to use him in the Saints offense?
Well, I feel like I used to see the ball thrown more in a fashion where only Jimmy Graham can get it. I mean, the guy's 6'7", 6'8",
Yeah.
he's big, he's 6'9" or something. He's huge. He's a huge guy, right?
Yeah.
So he's the kind of guy you should be able to put the ball where the only person in the whole world can get it is him.
Yeah.
I don't really see that so much. I mean, we're making connections with him, which is great. But I feel like or even in the red zone, and when we're get close to the goal line, I want to see that fade route or that high pass to Jimmy where only he can get it.
I would like to see that in the end zone more often. I agree with you there. But let's take into account who Russell Wilson is. Russell Wilson's not a quarterback who is going to force passes. I don't know if that's his mentality or his ability, but he's a much different quarterback. People compare him to Drew Brees, but he is a completely different quarterback from Drew Brees. Absolutely. The thought occurs to me that Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, all three are banged up. And I'm curious, is there a better time to have a bye week? Not just for Russell Wilson's legs, but also for this receiving core that's been getting beat up.
The only bad thing about this bye week coming up is that I don't get to watch watch Seahawks next Sunday. Other than that, it couldn't have come at a more perfect time. Usually, the early bye week is no good, because usually you don't have
nobody wants
you don't,
that. Yeah,
right. No one wants an early bye week because a few more weeks into the season is usually when people get banged up and you want that bye week. But no, it's worked out perfectly. Russell's banged up. A lot of guys are banged up. This week off will give us the time to get better, and hopefully you kind of springboard us into the rest of the season. And I hope we can we kind of start late in the year.
Right.
Hopefully we can get that jump start earlier. And talk about some first round bye stuff.
Well, 3-1, we're at the top of the NFC West. I mean, I guess the Rams are there, but I don't believe in the Rams. So I believe in them to beat us, but I don't believe in them to do anything else. It's good to actually see a good start from this team. Got a question for you about a specific receiver, since we're talking about receivers, and that's one Jermaine Kearse. What's happened to this guy? He went from, being that number 2, that solid number 2. He's been invisible these last 4 games.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Where has Kearse been? He's, unless maybe Jimmy Graham has kind of taken some of those looks away from him, because he was kind of one of he was not a huge guy, but he's kind of one of those guys that we would look to as the big body receiver sort of.
He was clutch. He was clutch.
He was clutch. Yeah, he was definitely clutch. But we would throw that outside shoulder route to him, that throw to him all the time. He can get positioned on corners. But I think maybe with the coming of Jimmy Graham, might just that's why he's seeing less targets.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's him not getting open or not playing the same football he's been playing. I think it's probably just scheme.
Do you think it's his last year with the team?
Honestly, I'm surprised that we signed him this year.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, I really was. I figured if we were going to lose a receiver, I figured it was going to be him. If we were going to have people we might lose, I figured Kearse would be one of those guys.
That's right. He was a free agent, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. So when we signed him, I was like, oh, okay, well, great, because I love Jermaine Kearse, but I thought he might have been one of the guys to go. And when he didn't go, I'm like, okay, well, who is going to go then? Like, let's not make a mistake here. We've been doing very good in the front office.
Well, I think with the concerns of Graham's knee injury, Paul Richardson always seems to get injured. Maybe he was a depth guy for this year, and maybe that's all he is for the remainder of this year, is that number 4 receiver, which, heck, I'll take him as a number 4 receiver over pretty much anybody in the league. So.
Yeah, he got, well, I think he only had like 1 catch today, but it was a great catch. He's I think he has the potential to be quite dynamic. But he just, he's got to bide his time.
Oh yeah. There was a hit on Doug Baldwin earlier today. Cheap shot. Depends on who you are. If you're a Seahawks fan, it was a cheap shot. If you're a Jets fan, that's a good, hard football play. But he got hit over the middle, hit in the head. He had a glazed look when he popped up off the ground. Any concern here that a concussion concern at all?
Well, I guess they put him through the protocol, and he checked out.
Okay.
But I don't know if I really. It's tough. Do I think it was a cheap hit? Not so much. The rules are the rules, and the players need to adjust their playing style to abide by these rules. But when you're running 100 miles an hour, these things are going to happen. So I wasn't too upset at the defender that hit him. But yeah, you're right. He did have a little bit of a glazed look on his face, and I was like, okay, we don't need to lose Doug right now, But within a few moments, he was already in good spirits. He was smiling and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that was for show, because I know that's what I would do if I wanted to make sure I got back in the game. Fake it till you make it. But he seemed to be okay.
What do you think about Darrelle Revis? He got injured today, hamstring, I believe, and I didn't even know he was on the field, to be honest. I wasn't even aware that he was on the field until he hobbled off with that injury. Is his career over? At least as being an elite level talent?
Let's put it to you like this. For all those people who love to get involved in this conversation, there was one corner on that field today who was always involved in that conversation, who made his presence very known, and it wasn't Darrell Revis, right?
Right.
I was saying the whole time, yeah. Well, let me answer your question. Yeah, Darrell Revis is he's getting up there. He's getting up there in his years. He was a great receiver. He is getting old though, and he was injured today. You said it was a hamstring, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He pulled up lame. Is his career over? I don't think so. I think Revis could probably be one of those guys like Charles Woodson, maybe make that jump to safety or something like that. Because I mean, you can't argue with his know-how. That won't go. Ability goes, but the know-how doesn't. So I think he has probably still a couple more years, unless he just decides to retire.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem is, the Jets are paying an exorbitant rate for him. They're paying him elite level money. He's making more than Richard Sherman is. So feel bad for them because they're probably stuck in salary cap hell now.
Right.
Because of that. All right. We got to run a break. We're the Seattle Sports Union. I'm Abraham Deweese. This is Rob English. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the defense because that's what I really want to talk about. This awesome Seahawks defense. Welcome back to Seattle Sports Union. My name is Abraham Deweese. With me is Rob English. We are the Seattle Sports Union. We're the best in the local Seattle area for commentary on all your favorite sports. Right now we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks and their 27-17 win over the New York Jets. Rob, this defense, Michael Bennett has called it the best, what did he say, the best of this generation? And I can't say any different. I think he summed it up. This is the defense of this generation.
There's been a few really good defenses, over the last 10 or 12 years, maybe 15 years. Seattle is definitely up there on that list. I mean, you got to talk. I mean, obviously you're going to talk about the Ravens. Their defense, their Super Bowl year was outstanding. But this defense, I mean, top to bottom, I mean, we on every level we have playmakers. Talking about on the front line, linebacking core, and the secondary. Just dynamic on each level. Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be hopefully our fourth year in a row of leading the league in defensive scoring.
We've actually that's actually been 4 years already. It's been 4 years already.
Right. So this hopefully will be our fifth. And we are
hopefully.
Right, and we're second in the league as of right now.
Correct.
Right. Before today's game, I think.
No team in the NFL has led the league 4 years in a row in defensive scoring, right?
Right.
This is unprecedented. And it's great. They've kept the core players. I looked at the team today. I was there on my couch, just with a blanket over me because I got home late last night. And and I hate 10 a.m. games. But I did sit there and, through the malaise of my Cheerios, I thought to myself that there is no weak spot on this defensive team. There is not one bad defender. There's not one person you can pick on.
Our worst player is probably a for sure starter on almost any other roster.
Yeah.
On linebacker? Who's our worst starting linebacker? KJ Wright. Right? Is KJ Wright our worst starting linebacker?
110 tackles last year.
Right, exactly.
I mean, maybe Tony McDaniel because he was picked up in the offseason, but I don't even think he's a starter though.
I don't think he starts. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think he starts. Yeah, it's when our defense doesn't play well, I think it ends up being a mind thing. It's just when we're not executing the way we need to. But it certainly is because we don't have the ability to do it.
Right, right. I I look at KJ Wright. He's a starter on every team, and probably on a different team, he's a Pro Bowler. I mean, he has the inconvenience of playing right next to Bobby Wagner.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's overshadowed a little bit.
I honestly thought to myself today that losing Bruce Irvin, no big deal. No big deal. We successfully replaced him with Frank Clark.
Absolutely. I was never really worried about Bruce Irvin leaving out. As good as I like Bruce Irvin, I wish him the best, but I didn't feel that we were going to see any type of significant drop off in production on defense without him.
Yeah, did you ever think to yourself that this would be a problem where a team would try to pick on Richard Sherman? I mean, maybe 10 years from now or something like that. But they went after him and after him and after him with Brandon Marshall, and Sherman got the best of him. He got the best of him.
Those first couple of times, he caught a couple of balls on him, and it was, I was like, okay, well, the thing people want to say, oh, look, I'm sure all those, Sherman,
haters.
Haters out there were like, oh, look at Sherman, he's supposed to be the best, I'm like, if he keeps trying Sherman's going to get him. I'm like, don't test Sherman. If you keep on throwing the ball at him, he's going to get you. That's exactly what he did twice.
When it comes to defensive backs, people can be foolish sometimes. A lot of people suspect, well, if you have a cornerback on an island, then they're going to shut down the offensive player every time. No, right. The best cornerbacks, they still give up yards. They get beat every once in a while.
Right.
But the best cornerbacks, Richard Sherman, learns what their offense is trying to do to him, and he makes the adjustments. And in the second half, Brandon Marshall wasn't even a blip on the radar.
Totally. I mean, Richard Sherman, he's got to be the smartest, if not, or one of the smartest, if not the smartest, guy at the position in the league. He says it in his interviews. He talks about how if you're not making interceptions, you're not the greatest quarterback or cornerback, excuse me. Because if you're not in the quarterback's head, getting him to throw the ball at you so you can make those interceptions, then anybody can lock a guy down. Well, maybe not anybody, but you can lock a guy down, sure. But if you're talking about making game-changing plays, who's better than Richard Sherman?
Right. Did you see anything from Earl Thomas that made you think, okay, he's over his previous collapses in the first two games, that is? I mean, I saw a guy who now looks like Earl Thomas again. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about Earl Thomas. The only time I ever get upset with Earl Thomas is when he gets to that bullet mode where he just wants to blow every guy up and doesn't wrap up and tackle, and he ends up missing completely or hitting the guy and doesn't, and the guy just bounces off of him. That's the Earl Thomas I don't appreciate.
Oh, did you do that today?
I didn't see him do that today, but he did it a couple times earlier this season.
Okay.
And then when he done, I see him do that. I'm just like, Earl, just tackle the guy, But he was this far away from getting a pick. I think it was late in the second quarter, I believe, or third. Yeah, he went right through his hands. Yeah. Oh yeah. Assuming he kept his footing. But yeah, I mean, he's on it. He's on the spot. He was on the spot all day today, I think.
Rob, who do you like better? Do you like Deshaun Shedd or Lane, Jeremy Lane?
Oh gosh. I guess Lane, but they both anger me at times.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, they really do. Shedd is suspect sometimes. I like Shedd. I think he's a little more physical. But it's tough when you've had such good luck with guys in the secondary, like we have over the last few years, that when you get a guy who may just be a standard guy, he's just, he pales in comparison to, a guy on the other side of the field.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I thought today Deshaun Shedd looked fantastic, and I thought he was clearly the better cornerback for this team. He kind of, yeah, you're right. He's a little bit bigger, more physical in that Byron Maxwell kind of mold, but that's what our team is. And not to say that Jeremy Lane did anything bad per se. He actually had some good tackles. But in one-on-one coverage, I saw Shedd shut people down, and that was awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think he's good because of his physicality. But I just think he's a little bit suspect in other areas. I think he's a good tackler, and I appreciate that, because tackling, if you're not going to tackle, then what are you doing? I cannot stand poor tackling. That's one thing I cannot stand is poor tackling.
Yeah. Well, hey, what happened earlier in the game? In the first half, we weren't getting to Fitzpatrick. The pass rush really wasn't there. It wasn't until later in the game where we broke through and obviously turned Fitzpatrick into a quivering mess. By the end of the game today, Fitzpatrick he looked like he just wanted to go home.
Yeah, I think we definitely broke his spirit. I think that or maybe we knocked him a little silly because he just kept throwing the ball to Richard Sherman like that. Maybe there was something rattled loose in his head. It took us a while to get going with the pass rush. I don't know if it.
Okay. Oh, well, looks like we just lost Rob. Well, I'll ask him that question when we get him back. It frustrated me. It angered me that the pass rush for our first half wasn't there. I don't think that the Jets were anybody amazing. I thought we could have taken them out. Oops. Is this still going, Bob? Okay. The first half, we need to get there and get to the quarterback, and we need to do it more often and do it on a consistent basis. It's tough because we don't blitz. That's not what the Seahawks are. That's not how they handle things. They're not going to send the house. But I feel like we get into a mode where we don't want to play Frank Clark early, and that's a problem. It seems like they want to use Frank Clark only for third down and long. I don't like that. I say use him more often. Use Frank Clark every down. Well, as many downs as he can play. I think he's clearly physically superior. They seem to think of him only as a pass rusher. I think he can also handle the run. Well, I was taking a look again at this defense, and I was very impressed again by Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett really frustrated and confused everybody. It was great to see him go in there and get Alex Winter, the offensive lineman for the Jets, so angry and so frustrated that Winters headbutt him. Now, it was a cheap shot, and Bennett got angry, but Cliff Averill was there to pull back Michael Bennett, and that was really cool. I like the teamwork there. But you could just tell, second half, that Jets offensive line got frustrated. You know who else I thought got frustrated? I think Brandon Marshall got frustrated. Brandon Marshall in that second half, after Sherman intercepted that the first interception by Richard Sherman, Marshall started running really weak routes. He wasn't pushing through or barreling through or fighting off. He looked like he was just giving up. He wasn't really excited with the fact that there's so much grabbing and pushing and shoving and physicality, basically. I saw one pass play where Fitzpatrick threw the ball down, almost looked like a seam play. And what do we have? We have Brandon Marshall running and then giving up because it looked like one of the Seahawks were going to intercept the ball, Cam Chancellor. Boy, if I were a Jets fan, no. I want Marshall to keep running and take out Cam Chancellor. Make sure it doesn't get intercepted. But that's probably what Brandon Marshall is. Jets got a little bit unlucky. They didn't have Eric Decker, their amazing second wide receiver. But you know what? That's fine. We have guys that we don't have either. So, it all evens out. All right, we're going to run to a break here. Let's see if we can't get Rob back online. We are the Seattle Sports Union, the best in local Seattle sports commentary. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Seattle Sports Union, the best in local Seattle sports commentary. My name is Abraham DeWeese, and welcome back, Rob English.
Oh, had a little technical difficulty there, but we're back. We're doing it.
Hey, Rob, before the malfunction there, I was asking you about the pass rush. I wasn't happy in the first half about the pass rush, and what I think is that Frank Clark needs to not just be limited to those pass rush plays. I'd like to see him more as an every down type of guy. What do you think about Frank Clark? Are they using him right? Are there other reasons why the pass rush didn't work in the first half?
Are we using him right? I think so. As an every down guy, I mean, I don't know if I've seen enough of him in the run game. As being like, a run stopper. Obviously, he's on the outside, but I know that, like we mentioned Bruce Irvin earlier, coming in on passing downs. I like the way we're using him right now, and it seems to be working. Having him on the field more, I think it's something that could be entertained. But I think I like the way we have a rotation right now, because I think if nothing else, it keeps our guys fresh. Especially our pass rushers. We want those guys to be fresh whenever possible. So I kind of like the way they do it right now. But I mean, if he could be every bit as formidable on every down, I mean, hey, why not? But I have to assume that the way they're doing it is have some rhyme and some reason to it.
So there seems to be a certain amount of innovation by Pete Carroll here. Have you ever noticed we generally run the nickel package more than like 50% of the time? We have a 4-3 defense theoretically, but more often than not, we're playing just two linebackers and bringing in Jeremy Lane. Do you think Pete Carroll has been ahead of the curve as far as the NFL trends go?
I think it goes without saying. I mean, just look at the results. I mean, the way that, I mean, between Gus Bradley and Dan Quinn, and now I think I've seen a little bit of a drop off of Chris Richard. But between them and Pete, I think that they have just been geniuses at how they put all that together. I like that we run the nickel a lot, and I like Jeremy Lane in the nickel spot. And our linebacker, we don't have to always have three linebackers on the field to still stay relevant in the run stopping, and that allows us to stay, real good against the pass as well. So yeah, I like the way to do it.
So the topic today, the topic du jour, the reason why we do this show is to discuss Jimmy Graham's float plane and how he. So our technical director can't let this go. He wants us to discuss the float plane. Is it a great idea to take this plane to work every day? And I'm just going to answer to our technical director behind the camera. Yes, Bob, it's perfectly fine for him to fly to work every day. Rob, what do you think?
I got two answers. If I was Pete Carroll, or if I was Rob English, and I was in the position of Pete Carroll, or even John Schneider for that matter, or even Paul Allen, I'd say absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's kind of like, wasn't it Ben Roethlisberger that crashed his motorcycle? Yeah, a few years ago. It was a little while ago now. Things like that. I mean, hey, we need you on the field. Now, I mean, you might be a very, accomplished pilot or a skilled pilot, but it's just like, and I guess accidents can happen anywhere, right? And they say you're more likely to have an accident on the road, than on a plane, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're talking about one of these little planes like that, it's just like, I'd just rather see Jimmy, in a regular car.
Now, motorcycle and skiing, those are actually expressly forbidden in most athletes' contracts. So are other things like, playing in basketball leagues or playing,
right.
Pickup volleyball. There's all sorts of things like that. But I don't know, float plane. I mean, come on, it's just a plane. I'm sure you're more likely to, have Coleman run into you, when he's sleeping behind the wheel than a float plane going down.
I look at it like this: if the worst imaginable happened,
Mm-hmm.
you'd say, maybe not you, but many people would say, "What the heck's it doing flying a plane to work anyway?" You know. So and because of that, I think it's cool. It's super cool, right? It's the coolest thing. I mean, who gets to work better? Who gets to work in better fashion than Jimmy Graham right now?
Now a bunch of the players also will take jet skis to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a bunch of players. I don't remember which ones specifically, but they live on Mercer Island, and they just we're just gonna take the jet ski over to Renton.
That's really cool. That's really
awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I can almost deal with the jet ski, but the plane, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't. And if I had the power to, I'd make him stop. Hey, fly your plane during the off season, but don't fly your plane to work.
We're a quarter way through the season. Who's your MVP?
Christian Michael.
Really? Okay.
Christian Michael's my MVP of the season right now. I mean, if for no other reason that he's just been reborn. He's been here. He kind of washed out. He went elsewhere for a while. He's come back and he looks better than ever. And I feel like with the way he's been running, if we were to minus him from the equation, where would we be? Where would we be without him? Running the ball the way he has.
Right. Right.
With Rawls being gone. So yeah, definitely. As for the first quarter of the season, my MVP is definitely Christian Michael.
It was kind of cool of him. In the second week, he was told that he was told that he's going to be the number 2 running back, and that's what the coaches submitted to the media. Yes, thank you for doing really well in week 1. Now you're back up.
Right.
But I didn't really, publicly hear him complain or send out a tweet about how unfair life is. Nope, he just. Okay, I'll be the backup, and then Rawls gets injured again. Okay, now I'm the starter again. Maybe having been released from the team last year gave him a certain level of humility. Maybe.
I think so. I mean, I don't know that he ever really. I don't know that he actually needed to be humbled. I didn't really get that. I never really got that vibe from him. I think if anything, it caused him to kind of hunker down and really concentrate on his game. He still has the fumble rooskies a little bit, but I mean, the way he attacks the line of scrimmage, and he just runs with such intent. I mean, he's direct. I mean, he's cutting through these lanes, so well. I think he definitely looks refocused. Absolutely.
When I look at him though, and when I look at Rawls, I still do think Rawls is better. And earlier you mentioned that when Rawls comes back healthy, you move Michaels to the number 2 position. I agree with you there.
Yeah, I don't know if, and I hate to say this, but I feel like Rawls didn't look as good as I hoped he would look, even when he was actually in the game. I think he looked a little bit almost hesitant. And I think maybe he just getting his football feet about him, maybe.
Yeah.
But he did look a little bit hesitant. I honestly appreciate, again, this is just the first quarter of the season. But I have appreciated Christian Michael with the ball in his hand more than Thomas Rawls this year, and I'm surprised by that.
Well, okay, so next week is obviously a bye. But the week after that is a game against the Atlanta Falcons, a game which I thought was just going to be, I thought we were just going to go, take the paddle and just whack the Falcons with it.
A gimme game, right?
Yeah, a gimme game. Perfect. Right. But they just won a shootout against the Carolina Panthers. Matt Ryan won the September Player of the Month in the NFL. These guys are on fire. Julio Jones just got, over 300 yards receiving today. This is going to be a crazy offense that's coming right at us. Have you had a chance to look at this team? I've only seen them in highlights, and I'm a little nervous. Yeah.
They look like the Falcons, from a few years ago, back when they were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I would, like you said, I thought that Falcon game was going to be a gimme game, and then today happened. They've been winning games, but today was like, whoa, yeah. Julio Jones, it's only like the sixth time in NFL history that a player
at 300 yards.
At 300 yards.
Yeah.
And it's like wow. Now, and maybe Carolina was thinking maybe we shouldn't have let Josh Norman go, but yeah, I mean, I was very surprised that their offense performed so well. I'm going to go ahead and just hold on to the hope that the reason that their offense played so well today was because Carolina's defense played so badly.
It's possible. Carolina also had Cam Newton injured. I don't know if you saw this play, but they went for two. Cam did a fake inside and then took the ball outside. He loafed to the end zone and got blown up.
Yeah.
Did you get to see that play?
I did see it, and it serves him right.
Yes,
play football, Cam. I'm a Cam fan. Yeah, with the exception of how he acted like a big baby after the Super Bowl. But
why didn't he dive? I mean,
just play football, right?
Yeah.
Play football. You know what I mean? So I think it served him right. If you're on the field and you're likely to get the snot knocked out of you at any given time, and so I think he deserved that pop that he got. And you could tell that he was a little bit,
shaken.
Even after the hit initially. I give him this though. He still had the wherewithal to. I don't know if they actually got across the plane, or they crossed the plane at the time of the hit, of the collision. But after the hit, you could see he was kind of wobbly, but he still had the presence of mind to turn and reach that ball across the plane. So I was like, that was pretty impressive. But yeah, I like seeing him get hit like that. Don't mess around.
What's wrong with the Cardinals? I mean, they just lost again today.
There's nothing wrong with the Cardinals. The Cardinals are not real. I would tell you that last year was not real. I've been telling folks, look, Carson Palmer was only a matter of time before he turned back into Carson Palmer.
Okay.
Right? He was a different guy for 15 and a half weeks last season.
Right.
And he almost got me convinced. He almost did. I was like, the whole time, I'm like, nah, Carson Palmer's not real. It's not going to happen. And they just kept on winning games somehow. But then he finally turned back into Carson Palmer against Carolina, I believe.
Well, there's that old term, career year, right?
Right. I think that might have been his. And and then obviously, it's a copycat league, and once you do something once, people usually try to figure out a way to figure you out. But yeah, I was never sold on Arizona, and I think we're seeing that now, that they're still just a 9-win team.
Yeah, and I look at that defense, and I think it's completely overrated. People have not seemed to figure out that they've lost half of their defense from that dominant defense 2 years ago.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Yeah. And they still, defense is still good, but it's not what it was a couple of years ago when Seattle, Arizona, St. Louis, and San Francisco, with those four defenses. I mean, we could take on that team. Those teams could take on anybody and have a chance of winning because their defenses were so good. Seattle's really been the only one that's really been able to keep that nucleus intact.
Are the Rams a paper tiger? I mean, I look at the win today that they had. I'm not convinced that this is a good team. I am convinced that they can beat the Seahawks on any given Sunday, right. but I'm not convinced that their 3-1 start is legitimate or real.
Well, this is going to make me have to be a bit of a hypocrite with this statement, but you can't argue with the wins. I just said about how Arizona wasn't real, even though they won all those games last year. But you can't take anything away from them, really. They beat us, and I think there's not many people out there that would argue that Seattle's the better team, but they beat us. It wasn't very impressive, but they kept us out of the end zone. You know what I mean? All we need to do is score one touchdown, just one. To beat them, and we couldn't do it.
So we got a comment here from an unknown source. It says that Jimmy Graham gets knocked over by 6-year-old girls in frilly dresses. How will severe turbulence affect him? Well, I don't know where this person thinks that Jimmy Graham's getting knocked over by little girls. I've never seen Jimmy Graham do anything but, I always think even with his injuries, I think he's a tough guy. I never see him just fall down when somebody lays a finger on him. I mean, he's trucked people before, and I'm sure he's going to truck people in the future. But
As a matter of fact, Jimmy Graham made it out an amazing block earlier today. I mean, and I was very surprised. Jimmy Graham has not been the best blocker when he
no,
was due to the team. I was actually quite upset with the effort that I saw from him in the blocking game. But hey, he's coming. He's coming around. It looks like he's coming around because today I think he performed pretty good when it came time for him to not run for routes and things like that. He was blocking well.
right. I don't think he's ever going to be a fantastic blocker, but if he can just get in the way, that'll do a lot of good, a whole ton of good. So thank you, anonymous subscriber, for your incorrect evaluation on Jimmy Graham. But he does get injured. I mean, that knee is another problem. Jimmy's, of course, recovering from that injury that kept him out for much of the season last year. But this new knee problem has me a little bit worried. Any worry there, even though he played today?
Definitely. I mean, yeah. Anytime that you have a player that's playing banged up, the risk for him to re-injure or injure it worse is there. Especially him being a big guy, guys are going to go low.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing that I want to see. Sometimes I wonder if they shouldn't just put braces on these guys.
Just mandatory, right?
Just mandatory. Even if they look like a bionic man, or who cares? But it's a protection.
Well, people are going to tell you though, Rob. I mean, the braces will slow you down.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people still think that NFL players wear cups. They don't, because to a man, they all say it slows you down. A lot of wide receivers don't wear thigh pads because it slows them down. And when you're talking about if you're talking about just a difference of inches, when you jump up over a cornerback, you'll take every little piece of it, little bit of advantage you can. I mean, look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a great testament to that is Michael Bennett.
With his shoulder pads?
With his Michael Bennett, he might as well not wear any shoulder. His shoulders are his shoulder pads. I mean, his shoulder pads.
Did you see what he said? He said he wore kicker. He wears the same shoulder pads that a kicker would.
Right. And hey, more power to him. But it makes him one of the best defensive linemen in the league. And hey, I'm okay with that.
It was interesting what he said as far as he doesn't wear shoulder pads because it helps him use proper tackling techniques.
Right.
Is that legitimate, or does he just want smaller shoulder pads so offensive linemen can't grab them?
I think it might be a little of both. When they said that during the game today, and I was like, that makes sense because you're talking about in rugby. Those guys don't wear shoulder pads.
Yeah.
And they make some pretty hard hits in rugby. And you have to tackle correctly. I mean, because if you don't, you could very seriously injure yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe that could be his logic behind it. And if that is, I mean, yeah, again, it's great. We've seen probably those videos on YouTube and Facebook, the hawk tackling. So maybe
that is a great video. That is a great video.
Absolutely. Maybe that's his way of hawk tackling, making sure that he hawk tackles.
Who's going to come up big for the Seahawks after this break? Who in week 5 is going to be the guy that we're talking about?
Well,
little precognition here, if you will.
Yeah. I would like to. I mean, maybe this is just playing it too easy, but I'm waiting on Doug Baldwin to break out again. Yeah, for sure. Russell Wilson, when he gets healthy, I mean, Baldwin is his number one guy.
It's interesting you said Baldwin. I was actually going to pick a different receiver, Lockett. I think we're going to get into a little bit of a mode, a transition between some of the older receivers that we have and the young guns here, the Paul Richardsons and the Tyler Lockett's. And I'm not saying Baldwin's going anywhere, but I think Lockett gets a bigger share of the pie. And we talked a little bit earlier about Jermaine Kearse, where I think his catches aren't necessarily just going to Jimmy Graham. They're probably going to also Baldwin and Lockett too, aren't they?
I think so. But I mean, if you look back, Kearse used to have 5, 6, sometimes 7 catches in a game. Mm-hmm. And now I think did they have two or three today?
Two, I think. Yeah.
I think he had two, right? And even when he has more than that, it's just like we don't feel like you don't seem like you're hearing his name so much anymore,
Right.
But I think you might be right actually with Tyler Lockett. I might agree with that. I'd like to see with Jimmy Graham becoming more of a focal point and him getting the ball more, and the safeties maybe cheating down to see about Jimmy Graham. Maybe Tyler Lockett can take the top off the defense there. Because the safety start cheating down. No one's going to catch Tyler Lockett once he gets going. So I'd like to see him, and Russell's been hitting him deep a few times. I'd like to see him do that a little more often.
All right, we got to run here, but I got to ask you a question, Rob. What are you going to do without any Seahawks on Sunday?
Well, I'm going to watch the rest of the games. But what am I going to do without my Seahawks? I'm going to be very bored. I'm going to be very bored because my week, my whole life between August and February is Seahawks football. I look forward to it all week long. When I win, I'm 10 feet tall all day at work. When we lose, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. When we lose, I honestly, there have been times where we've lost, and Rob, I don't even want to go to work. I don't want to talk to anybody at work about sports. I will not go to sports websites. I won't go to ESPN. And then when we win, you're right. It's like I'm on top of the mountain. I like to go to other teams' websites and just see how they're talking about how humiliating their defeat was to the mighty powerful Seahawks. I don't know what to do either. Next Sunday I might go outside or something.
Right. Yeah. Maybe do something with our lives. Yeah. No. It's tough when there's no it's the same thing when we play on Thursday or Monday.
Oh yeah.
I don't get to watch them on Sunday. I'm watching all these games I don't really care about for the most part.
Right.
But yeah, we'll have to find something. Maybe I'll take my kids outside or something.
Yes. All right. Well, great, Rob. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back again next week. We are the Seattle Sports Union. We are the best in local Seattle sports commentary. We will see you next time. Have a great day, guys.
Go Hawks.